Thanks for joining us on the Cultured Meat and Future Food podcast. This show is for anyone interested in cultured meat and future food technologies. I had a great chat with Kevin Cochran of Jackie Mays, a 100% plant-based fast food chain opening up in Northern California and beyond. They're currently running their campaign on Ululi right now, a crowdfunding platform. You could find the link to the crowdfunding platform at www.futurefoodshow.com. Kevin Cochran is the founder and CEO of Jackie Mays Grill. Jackie Mays is the culmination of a career spent in the service of customers, whether in retail, e-commerce, business, or sustainability. After 10 years of working up the ranks in many restaurants to becoming the first general manager of Freebirds World Burrito, Kevin gave up the food business 2 decades ago for the high-tech world and worked in the last 10 years in clean technology. In his previous role as Chief Operations Officer for an emerging energy and sustainability management company, Kevin led programs to track energy and carbon footprints for organizations like HP, Tesla, VMware, and the city of Sacramento. Trained at top universities in the US and Europe with an MBA and a certification in sustainability, he serves as the director on the board of the Sustainability Management Association. A through line in Kevin's career had been the personal passion to combat climate change, of which you can read more about on his blog at www.sustainabilityx.com. Coming full circle, Kevin's current venture, Jackie Mays, and its climate-friendly and cruelty-free mission seeks to transform the fast food industry, change the world, and your diet. Kevin, I'm excited to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Alex. It's an honor to be here.
Kevin, tell us about Jackie May and what you're planning.
Sure. Jackie Mays, I'm excited to tell you about. We're creating a first-of-its-kind fast food restaurant chain for meat lovers and vegans alike, 100% plant-based meat. Our mission is to create a leading sustainable fast food brand and serve food that tastes great, is convenient, and low price, but also healthier, climate-friendly, cruelty-free, and accessible to everyone. Think guilt-free burgers, fries, and shakes. Identical, but made from plants.
And is there anything like this already? Like, are there any fully vegan fast food restaurants?
Well, there are a number of new plant-based restaurants coming on the market.
Exclusively plant-based?
There are.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really, it's kind of on the heels of Veggie Grill, who launched in 2006 and really kind of paved the way for a lot of the plant-based companies to come to follow.
Right.
They're normally in the fast casual space, however.
Right. Veggie Grill is a fast casual, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so in the fast food space, Jackie Mays is unique.
Right.
Now, it's unique for a couple of reasons. There is a couple of plant-based fast food restaurants that have drive-thrus, and but they're really serving the vegetarian and vegan markets, and we're looking to go mainstream, really for meat lovers, like I mentioned, and vegans alike.
Cool. And so I said Jackie May, but it's actually Jackie Mays. Tell us, where does the name come from?
Sure. Well, after nicknames of my wife and my son, Jackie Mays is also a subtle tribute to Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays for breaking barriers.
Okay, cool. And so I don't know too much about sports, and I think this is baseball.
That's right.
So what barriers did Jackie Robinson and Willie Mays?
That's right.
What barriers did they break?
Well, growing up, I played sports, and just you love to play, love to win, and that's the thing about sports. It doesn't matter what your background is, what your religion, what your race is. It's really just who's out there playing their best, putting it all out on the line. So in the 1940s, Jackie Robinson was the first African American baseball player to break the color barrier in sports, not just in baseball, but in sports. And he overcame ridicule, death threats, and just an enormous amount of backlash. And he paved the way for other black athletes like Willie Mays, who's one of the all-time great American baseball players.
Cool. And so when we're thinking about, we're talking about backgrounds. What is your background? Is it in the food space? Is it in the animal welfare space? What is your background?
Sure. Well, so for the last 20 years, I've been in technology, in the high-tech space, and actually 10 years in clean technology, where I was on the founding team of a company that tracked carbon footprints for large entities, cities, and Fortune 500 companies, HP, Tesla, and others. And prior to that, I'd been in the automotive online industry and worked in product management. But really early in my career, just out of college, and even before that in high school, I worked in restaurants. My first job was as a dishwasher at a restaurant in Sacramento. And I worked up the ranks to server and worked in really some of the finest dining establishments in the country, and also in some very high traffic ones as well. So I had a good varied background. And in college, I met a friend, my neighbor, Mark Orfala, who was founding a new restaurant based on the El Pollo Loco chain, actually.
Right. And we have a chicken there.
We do. Oh, that's right, we do.
Yeah, just a little ornament in this here office.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So it's based off, the restaurant that your friend was creating was based off of El Pollo Loco.
Originally, yeah, that's right. But we learned a lot of things quickly that consumers really drive the program. And that is, we started serving these chicken dinners.
Oh, okay,
and
so
lunches.
it was even serving chicken. The plant-based idea had not come
No,
into fruition
this was
yet.
years ago.
Oh,
actually, this is Freebirds World Burrito now has about 75 restaurants. So I was on the founding team.
We were talking about this.
Yeah.
Okay, and this kind of, when I first talked to you, and I think we were at Paul Shapiro's house. That's where we met, right?
We did.
When I first talked to you, you said Freebirds, and I remember when I lived in Austin, there was a Freebirds there, and we loved it. It was awesome. So how was that process? Like, how was it kind of being part of the founding team of a restaurant that really took off quite a bit?
Sure. Well, it was really exciting. Honestly, Mark Orfala was the founder, and he brought me in as the first manager. And we had some heralding times when our cook left, for example, over the Christmas break and didn't come back.
And I think that happens a lot in food service, right?
It does. There's especially if you're a small startup, and the first restaurant was, I think 400 square feet store. I mean, it was tiny. Okay. But we had a dream really to take Freebirds and make it a nationwide chain. And, things happened. The second store opened in College Station, Texas, after Mark did an extensive study of the best places to open a restaurant. And, things happened, and over time, it took a while to get that going. So our other friend, Pierre Dubé, was the original manager of that store in College Station. And Pierre had a background at McDonald's as an accountant, and very operations savvy. And so he was able to buy the rights to the chain and expanded it, and then sold it after, I think about 20 restaurants in Texas and Oklahoma.
I see, okay. So that one in Austin, was that one of the original ones maybe?
Yes.
Oh, what?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one of the handful of first restaurants.
Cool. And so how long were you there? Were you there through the expansion?
Well, I worked in different roles. So I was originally the general manager for the first store, which is a small store. We had, a handful of half a dozen to a dozen employees, and we had delivery and whatnot. So I did that for about a year, and then I stayed on as a consultant and was their marketing manager. And when we opened the store in College Station, and did advertising for the company, and then later helped Mark with some of his own expansion plans, and was a real estate manager. So we did site selection and other things. So all combined, I have about 10 years of restaurant experience, but I haven't. It's really a full circle comeback for me, because if you would have asked me hey, Kevin, are you going to open restaurants in the future?
Right.
Heck no, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No, that's way too complicated. And, I'd rather be in technology where you make something one time and you
Yeah.
can duplicate it a million times and no marginal cost. Every restaurant, Tom Monahan said, was like having a baby. He's the founder of Domino's Pizza because he puts so much into that location. But, we're at a very, very interesting time. There's a food revolution occurring now in plant-based foods and also in cultivated meat. And with my background, I have other technology background in the franchising space. I worked for a company called Zealand.com where we developed business applications, and then we sold those through franchises throughout the country, 36 franchises. And we had country franchises as well, so we sold it in Japan and Germany, Australia, and the UK.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it was great. I got to travel and did franchise training events. So, really understand sort of the challenges involved with franchising from that standpoint, not in the food, but in the technology space. But I think there's some similarities.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned like opening a restaurant is like having a baby. A lot of people in the tech world say like starting a company with a co-founder is like getting married to your co-founder. So I guess
yeah, that's true.
So it's yeah, and both are difficult. So
yeah,
cool. So then it's a very nice fit, kind of going into this new concept. And I want to kind of ask you about why plant-based, but more importantly, I kind of want to specifically ask, like, when you were doing work in the clean tech space, with the carbon footprints, did you see that kind of traditional restaurants or fast food chains such as Burger King or McDonald's, they had a very high carbon footprint compared to other types of businesses? And was this one of the kind of driving forces for Jackie Mays?
If you look at fast food and you measure them on a sustainability index, they score very, very low. Poor to abysmal is what
Right.
With some, and that includes their carbon footprint for sure. But product sourcing, integrating sustainability into their mission, having their employees and their customers alike getting the messages of sustainability, really not part of their mantra, because they need to serve convenience and they need to do it at a very low cost. So the lowest cost you can provide means that you have to make some compromises. So and that's why I think there's such an opportunity here with Jackie Mays, because we're looking to create a leading sustainable fast food brand, and to do that, it's not easy for established restaurants to recommission their buildings and make them zero net energy, for example. Look, if you come at it from the perspective of doing it from scratch, it's a little bit easier and more cost effective. It's not cheap. It's going to take quite a bit of capital to get it moving. And restaurants, you like to see restaurants be profitable as soon as possible. But we know that it's going to take a little while for that to happen. But the market opportunity is massive. There's 14,000 McDonald's locations in the United States, about 40,000 globally, and just a few plant-based restaurants that are popping up here and there, and really no fast food franchises that we're looking to do. So it's a wide open market.
Yeah. So you have experience in kind of a fast-growing restaurant chain, experience with franchising internationally. What goes into creating a new restaurant? What are all the kind of the things that you have to look at, the challenges? What are the biggest challenges? What really goes into that?
Well, a lot. There's everything from the team, menu development, location, hiring and training, people development, customer service. There's some brands that I really admire. If you look at ChickfilA and their customer service, they're just very tops. Now, I haven't been a customer of ChickfilA, but I've from read about them and visited them and see that they have quite an operation.
I feel like specifically over the last couple of years, Chick-fil-A has done a very good job at branding.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they're going into like this unique category. I don't know if they're going into a healthier fast food category. I don't know exactly what category it is. But we've definitely been hearing a lot more about it lately.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they had expansion plans or whatever it may be. But it's definitely something that's interesting.
Yeah. And there's other chains that Freebirds, we loved it because it had a cult following. People just loved the freedom mission behind Freebirds. Now Freebirds, our restaurant in College Station, we built a replica of the Berlin Wall with Harley Davidson.
Nice.
And it's kind of after Mark's father riding motorcycles, in Europe, and World War II veteran. And freedom, is really what Freebirds stands for. And anyway, that cult following exists in several chains that I really admire. In-N-Out Burger is another one. Its simplicity is unparalleled, really, and they're able to keep customers very happy and motivated. And
also a very cult-like following.
That's what I mean. Yeah. Exactly. Another one is the Dutch Brothers. If you're familiar with the Dutch Brothers coffee brand and all their drinks that they serve. Now I'm a new customer to the Dutch Brothers, but they have a very innovative drive-through.
Is it like a Starbucks style? Like is it a restaurant or?
Well, it is a restaurant, and there are some that have indoor seating, but mostly there might be some patio tables outside, but primarily it's a double drive-through. And In-N-Out was one of the early double drive-throughs.
Double drive-through meaning having two windows?
Basically going two separate directions. So so you have an island kiosk, sort of really small location footprint that they have, and they have packet with employees that make the drinks for you, and then they have monitors that come out and take your order in the car while you're driving through, and they're coming from both angles, and so they're very efficient.
Right.
So it's a very interesting model.
Yeah. So I'm from Chicago. That makes you think of Portillo's.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like this, I guess, hot dog and burger restaurant or chain all over Chicago. And the line is always really long for the drive-through, but it's also very fast. And there are people that not only take your order, but also kind of cash you out. In the car, while you're in the car, before you even get to the window, and then you just go to the window, pick up your food, and you're out. But I mean, when we're talking about sustainability, is the drive-through model good for that?
No, it isn't.
Not
unfortunately. So there's different compromises that have to be made in the case of convenience, and that's what the fast food chains do. That's what Jackie Mays will have to do.
Yeah.
But we'll do it in a very thoughtful way.
Yeah.
And there's more electric vehicles on the road, hybrids, etc. And give those guys a little
priority.
Yeah, a little
extra fries.
Right, something. Just to make it more incentive for people to, because if it was an EV, for example, okay, now you are completely sustainable. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it almost makes me think, with the onset of electric vehicles, we're going off a little bit of a tangent here, but with the onset of electric vehicles, I think we're going to have to see a lot more charging stations. So maybe the fast food joint could be one of those hotspot charging stations.
It could, absolutely.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you mentioned there's 14,000 McDonald's in the U.S. How many of those have EV spots? I bet if they do, they don't have more than two, right? That's
right. Yeah, that's a very good point. So, definitely as they're expanding, locations, it's sort of like cell phone towers, right? They look for places to put the towers to make connections, and it's very interesting how the EV market and eventually the hydrogen fuel cell also which is a different distribution model, obviously, but and a very expensive proposition to get that going. But we're going to see all these changes coming.
Yeah, I was doing a research project. This is probably like 15 years ago, maybe 15 years ago now, and we did research on clean energy for the automotive space, and ultimately we came down to hydrogen fuel cell vehicles being the winner. And because at that time battery technology had not advanced, I think, enough. And so, I mean, we only see a few fuel cell vehicles. I think Toyota is the one that's pushing that.
The Mirai,
But, I mean, it's interesting discussion. Like, is EV really the best option? Or have we just been drawn to Elon Musk's allure, right?
And it's quite an allure. I mean, now they're the most valuable automobile company capitalization. So it's amazing what they've been able to do. And also drive the price point down with new models.
Right. And so we're talking a little bit about the location. Tell us about where the first Jackie Mays will be, and also a little bit about the Kickstarter, because you guys have just launched a Kickstarter. Is that right? Yep,
it's actually a Ululi campaign, which is the largest crowdfunding platform in Europe, actually. And you might ask, why are you doing that from Europe? You're not in Europe. This is a localized. Well, they partnered with Bank of the West to provide a platform for entrepreneurs to launch their startups, and we pitched that event, and it was the Impact Makers. So it was our launch, which was last week. It went great. And we didn't win, but we got the message out and made 100 new fans. So Ululi is our Kickstarter that we're doing, and we're raising $20,000 to host pop-up restaurants and to do site selection on our first restaurant, a little more menu development, and we're going to supplement that with a seed funding round that gets us to our first store. So there's some really exciting rewards too that we have for people that are looking to. Oh, you had also asked me where we're going to open our first restaurant.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So we're going to open in Sacramento, California. Our first location is where we're looking for. We also have others planned, but we can't get ahead of ourselves. Other cities, in the West to begin with. But the idea is to really spread this through franchising and get our business down so that we have very consistent processes, food, etc., systems that are highly efficient based on technology. Because today, restaurants need to be technology companies, and that's one of the other pillars of our business. Is we're going to utilize the best technologies to make this happen, and there's a lot you can do that hasn't been done, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, when I think of Veggie Grill, I think, they're pretty techy, but not really anything beyond the standard stuff you would expect, right? Like they have an app that works pretty well. I think they have this trash compactor that is like crazy automatic and everything. But we haven't seen a middle ground, right? I mean, we see like these kiosks at like McDonald's and Burger King. If you notice my coffee cup over there, I was just at this place called B-Box Cafe, and there's this kind of like Cafe X, a robot that gave me my coffee. It seems like they're either totally automated, or at least front of house, back of house, some sort of heavy automation, or just kind of apps and kiosks. So it really is interesting to see what is that next level, that middle ground. And so anything that comes to mind when you guys are putting together Jackie Mays proposals or anything like that?
Well, it's sort of all of the above and a few other things that we're not really quite ready to share yet. But our first location will be a test kitchen and test operation zone. So we're going to try out a few things, see how they work, and based on the successes of other chains. And then our second restaurant is intended to be the prototype store that we build and actually build to our competitive advantage. And so we'll the very first store won't have all the things that we're looking to do, obviously, But the second store is our goal to do that and to make that to where the venture capital companies can say, oh, okay, this is really what you're looking to do, and that kind of expansion that they can support. And and then we move that ball forward.
Cool. And so, Burger King, McDonald's, they are starting to bring in plant-based options. I think KFC just announced a plant-based option, and that's really McDonald's Germany. I don't think they've brought it to the U.S. yet. But do you think that in the future, more of these fast food restaurants will have at least one plant-based option? And is it here to stay?
Absolutely. Yeah, so if you talk about the majors adopting these plant-based versions of burgers, for example, the Beyond Burger at Carl's Jr. or the Impossible Whopper, which both of them are fantastic. I eat those occasionally. It's funny because I'm not a huge consumer of fast food, but obviously I'm out there testing and stuff, and you cannot tell the difference, and they're really tasty. I just, Bill Gates was fooled, and they do these taste tests all over, and you'll see our videos that we did some pop-up taste tests, and the reactions are great. I
did see those videos. People really loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to ask, are you personally plant-based?
I have a goal to become plant-based.
Okay.
No, I am what you call a flexitarian.
Okay, me too.
Yeah, yeah, but I really am embracing the vegan lifestyle from a standpoint of eating better, and because of all of the associated benefits. Not to mention, animal welfare is one, but it's a process, and it's a cultural shift. You're in a family. It's all about shopping and what you buy and what's available to you to eat. So it takes time, but the benefits are there. There's my mother. She just turned 75 years old. And we all grew up eating meat and stuff. She has some health problems now. She was at the doctor a couple weeks ago. And the doctor suggested that she see the documentary called The Game Changer.
No way, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that movie is produced by James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jackie Chan, and
on Netflix.
Yeah, that's right, on Netflix. It's narrated by James Wilkes, who's also a producer, and it basically shows that elite athletes perform better when they are on a plant-based diet. And you go, well, how can that be? My dad would tell me, you have to eat your meat to get stronger, get those proteins. And well, it turns out that the animals themselves are getting those proteins from plants, and the animals aren't the best filters. There's contaminants in the meat that you eat that actually degrades your performance. And you go, well, how can that be? We've been fed this, our whole lives. Excuse the pun. But Arnold Schwarzenegger summed it up in one word: marketing.
Right. Yeah.
And so that there's definitely a mission from the meat producers to sell more meat. And that's what business is all about. But now that more and more research has been done and studies have been done, and you can tell what the outcomes are, you realize you can actually perform better by eating more plant-based. So it's a healthy choice. It's an environmental choice. Just one hamburger alone, several things, takes over 400 gallons of water and that for a quarter pounder. And one hamburger can contain the DNA of 1,000 cows.
Right.
So if you have E. coli contamination in just one or two cows, right, it mixes, and that's how you get these outbreaks. Well, you don't have any of those problems with plant-based, in addition to low cholesterol, etc. So it's a life changer for my mom, actually, looking at this as, wow, I can really cut back my meat intake and actually be healthier.
Yeah. So you mentioned, 400 gallons of water for one burger or 1/4 pounder.
Mm-hmm.
If you took like a equivalent plant-based burger, how much less do you think it would be?
Sure. Well, if you look at Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat, if you look at both their water and their GHG, they say 75% less water.
75% less.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's pretty huge.
And also their impact on water scarcity, because fresh water isn't everywhere.
Right.
So and animal agriculture consumes 70% of all fresh water.
Wow.
And it's a huge, huge impact. And greenhouse gases, it's over 90% less, the Impossible or Beyond Burger.
Yeah. It adds up. Especially if you're having meat every day, it definitely adds up.
Mm-hmm.
So in contrast to that, we've seen a lot of new technologies come up from insect proteins, cultivated meat. Do you think that in the future, if it reaches the sustainability goals that Jackie Mays has, do you think that in the future Jackie Mays might serve something that, for example, is made with insect proteins or cultured meat?
Well, it's all about customer demand. Right? So, what we will always be is climate friendly and cruelty free. So for cultivated meat, meat that's grown from cells and replicated and grown into meat that is so much more efficient from raising, beef, a cow, by growing the feedstocks, growing the cow itself, the steer, and then transporting that steer, and then slaughtering the steer, etc. And then you have all the byproducts, etc. It's a very inefficient and really inhumane practice. Over 70% of all beef cattle are raised on factory farms, and those conditions are just not natural. So when you hear the critics say, "Shall we eat plant-based?" No, it's not natural. It's a really common and understandable point of view because it's something new and it sounds very different. But if you really consider how the animal meat is produced, you realize, that's not natural either. Do you know that a cow's lifespan is 20 years normally? But cattle are slaughtered at 14 months. So if you consider a human lifespan of 75 years, that would mean after 5 years old, you're not even 5 before you're...
Right.
Yeah, so is that natural? No. And, Paul actually wrote the book, national bestseller of Clean Meat. And I'm honored that he's on our board. We have a great board, by the way, with we have Raul, and his last name's a little challenging for me. I'm just Mandugiano, and he is a restaurant background that is very extensive. We have Miles Hoffman, sustainability background, program manager that we have, Fortune 500 companies and cities he's done sustainability planning for. Honored to have him, and Armin Najarian, which has, I think I mentioned, but 20 years of marketing, branding experience in Silicon Valley. So we're just, I'm honored to have all of them on the board. Paul wrote the book, and he mentioned in there about is it natural to eat clean meat? And he compared it to ice harvesting. So in the mid or early 19th century, they would take ice and extract it from lakes and deliver that to homes, until the invention of refrigeration. And
synthetic ice.
Synthetic ice, yes. Unnatural,
right,
was what the critics would say, because they had quite a business going hauling the ice. But as you know, now we all have refrigerators. This is how we... And with plant-based meat, it's a similar sort of acceptance process over time when you realize that you're eating the same, lipids, amino acids, water, and minerals. It's all the same. It's just that it's made directly from plants rather than from animal meat, that people will have a easier time consuming it, and really help solve some of the big, Dr. Pat Brown of Impossible Foods, he told me that animal agriculture is the most destructive technology on earth. 45% of land area is consumed by growing feed crops and raising cattle, and then all the other associated problems. So, and if you look at the UN, they say by 2050 we have to double the supply of meat. So, you think there's not a market for plant-based meat and cultivated meat? Oh, yes, there will be. And we want to be the ones out there, as the distribution for those.
So,
and insect protein, I think we'll pass on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, though.
I have one last question, and that's just simply, why burgers?
Why burgers? Isn't the burger the best invention in the world? We, at least in America, I think everyone's grown up with eating burgers at a ball game or just sitting around the table at a barbecue, and it's really a great place to start with alternative meat, and as you know, fast food it took off in the 40s and 50s and 60s, and now it's ubiquitous, and they're all serving burgers. So I'd have to say, why not burgers?
Why not burgers? Well said, well said. Great. So you can get in touch with Kevin on LinkedIn and learn more about Jackie Mays at jackiemays.com, and we'll also have the link in the details. Kevin, are there any last insights that you might have for our listeners today?
There's a couple things, and that is that fast food is also notoriously highly concentrated in poor communities, and it has basically provided sort of poor nutrition. They're not environmentally friendly. They're not cruelty-free, not healthier. So, Jackie Mays wants to basically go to those same communities and provide better options. And not only with the food, but with their community. And we plan to do equity crowdfunding for our franchises and allow communities to invest in their own local restaurants, make it easier for franchises to get started, have the community ownership, and we plan to once we get up and running, have the Jackie Mays Foundation, that 1% of all our proceeds come in and will go out to other foundations that support youth causes. So the Jackie Robinson Foundation, the Willie Mays Foundation, Ted Williams Foundation, Lou Gehrig Society, and also local organizations, because youth matters. So we, I write about some of this on my blog. It's sustainabilityx.com, and we would really love to see you and others at our restaurants when we open. And JackieMays.com, our crowdfunding's going on now. So
on Ululi.
That's right.
Okay, great.
And one more thing. Besides, I'm passionate about climate change. Opening Jackie Mays is where I believe I can make the biggest impact. We all need to take action in some way because the climate is changing. My brother, he lived in New Jersey when Hurricane Sandy hit. Wow. He lost all his possessions. He almost lost his life. I have friends and colleagues that lost homes and loved ones in the Paradise Fire, in the Camp Fire in Paradise, California. My wife grew up in Houston, Texas, and the house that she grew up in was flooded by Hurricane Harvey. Obviously, she had moved out long ago, but the point is that these aren't isolated events. So I've considered climate change really, that existential threat that they were talking about years ago, in the mid 20th century. But I started working in this area in the mid 90s with Payson Stevens, earth scientist and an artist. And he had, for his company, recently won the Presidential Design Award for Excellence presented by President Clinton for Arctic Data Interactive. And it showed how global warming would increase sea levels to rise up to the steps of the White House. And, if not, preventative measures were taken. And, you know, we also worked on Consequences. It was a pamphlet that was given to every congressperson at the time, 25 years ago. And so everyone has been aware of this for a long, long time. And now, 25 years forward, just in 2016 to now, if you look at all of the top banks led by JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo and others, they've invested over $1.6 trillion in new exploration for fossil fuels. And you go, oh my God, we should have divested 20 years ago.
Right.
You know? So basically, Jackie Mays is a way that you can eat delicious food, but also take a bite out of climate change.
Well, let's hope to a large expansion.
All right.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's been an honor, a true honor.